It's vegan recipes with Pat and Emily.
Today on It's Vegan, I'm going to show you how to make nut horns, and also a little bit later I will show you how to make apricot kolaches, all from the same dough recipe. I will be taking a picture of this conversion chart where I show how I converted the recipe that had a lot of egg, a lot of butter in, to a vegan version. So to start with, I'm going to make a flax egg. So I have some plant milk here. I found the soy milk works best when you're baking. For the flax egg, I'm using, instead of water, plant milk. So I will stir that in. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is take a little bit more plant milk and put my yeast in. Then this is a little bit of maple syrup. And the syrup helps the yeast grow and get started. So I'm going to let these two items rest for a little bit. I want to make sure that the yeast is working. We're back. As you can see, the yeast is starting to get a little bit bubbly. That's exactly what you want to happen. You know the yeast is working then. And then my flax egg, it's all thickening up a little bit. I'm going to stir my wet ingredients together. This is the melted vegan butter. You could substitute oil if you would like. And then this is the flour. I am not adding the salt, but if you feel that your family would like this better, at this time you would add your salt and stir it in. Now this is a yeast dough, and a lot of Easter food has symbolisms to me and to some of the cultures that design the foods. So in this case, most cookie doughs do not have yeast in as their leavening agent to make them rise, but you might think about how Christ rose from the dead. Got the dough started. I'm going to work it by hand a little bit. Today I'm making a double recipe because I'm making the nut horns and also the apricot kolaches. I find that you can use the same dough for both recipes. However, traditional apricot kolaches have cream cheese in them, but I have a few friends who taste test my recipes, and this passed. So you're going to knead it just a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3, maybe not even that long. You want it to just come together as a dough. That's how you knead. You push it down, fold it over. This isn't like a bread dough that you want to develop the gluten in the dough. You just want it to form a dough. I want 6 pieces. It smells great. It has a good smell to it, a nice aroma. And this dough is going to raise until it's double. So each of those pieces form into a little ball. When you are raising a dough that has yeast in it, you want to make sure that the outer part of the dough does not get hard and prevent it from rising. So what I'm going to do, take this dish, spray it lightly, and I'll put my dough in it, and then I'll just spray the top lightly. It'll go into a warm place in my kitchen and rise until it's double. That'll probably take about an hour. Time to make the filling. Because each of the fillings have to cool, I'm going to make it while the dough is rising. What I have here is 2 cups of nuts. I chopped them in a food processor, got my nut milk and my sugar, and truly I would love to leave out the sugar, but the cookies get very soft and feel like you didn't bake the dough after about a day. So I found that you really do need the sugar. So you're going to bring that up to a boil. And then for the apricot, we're going to put a little bit of water in here. Very little. That was probably about 1/4 of a cup. And I also chopped up my apricots. They take a long time to get soft. So chopping them up in your food processor helps that process a little bit. And again, with the apricots, they are plenty sweet without sugar, but they will just make your cookie get very gooey and not too tasty. So there's some sugar in there. That was about 1/4 of a cup. I don't think that you can cut down on that further to have those cookies work for you. And while the apricots are cooking, you're going to just keep stirring them and seeing if you need to add a little more liquid to them. For the nuts, I'm bringing my milk up almost to a boil. And I wanted to show you something. I don't go through a lot of soy milk, so what I do is I freeze it in ice cubes. Then I can just pop out what I need. Each of these ice cubes is about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to put a little bit of maple flavoring in it, not very much. This is almost up to a boil. So if you take a look over here at the apricots, I'm adding just a little bit more water, and I'm going to turn this down to let that simmer, and I will probably be adding more liquid to it. However, what you're trying to get is an apricot paste. Our nut milk is boiling. I'm taking it off the heat for a moment, and when you are chopping your nuts, measure them after they're chopped. I'm going to return it to the heat, and you're going to let this boil or almost boil for a few minutes. You want it to thicken up, and as it cools, it will thicken. You gotta watch it, it will burn. You can see how it's boiling, and it's already starting to thicken. So now it would be time to let it on very low. You're still gonna have to stir it though. And I wanted to let you know, I put a little bit of lemon peel in with the apricot. It enhances that flavor. At this point, we're just gonna let it simmer, and we'll come back. This is what the nut filling looks like when it's done. You can see it's still boiling, and now I'm going to take it off the heat. It will be the right consistency when we go to fill the cookies. Okay, our fillings are prepared and cooled, and as you can see, the dough has risen. So we're going to start shaping our cookies. This dough is different. You don't roll it out on a floured cutting board. You do a sugared one. And that's where the sweetness comes into this cookie, because the filling didn't have very much sugar and neither did the dough. So I'm going to pat it out, and you roll it really thin. When it starts sticking, just roll it over. I'm going to roll this little piece of dough into an 8-inch circle. Okay, that's 8 inches and that's 8 inches. There's two ways to do this. I'm going to demonstrate the first way that I prefer, although one of my people that tastes this, Mary Beth, prefers it a different way. So I'm going to show you this way. It's the way my mom did it. You're going to cut that into 4. And then you're going to cut each of these pieces into 3. And this way you will end up with a dozen cookies. As you can see, mine are not all even. I've divided my nut filling into 3 so I know how much to use on each circle. And you can see it thickened up very nicely. And if you divide your nut filling up, then you know how far it has to stretch. Depending on what size piece I take, I pick the cookie wedge. And this nut filling's not very sweet either. I really cut down on the sugar. But as I said, those people that test my recipes felt that it was certainly sweet enough when it was all said and done. I kind of formed those into a little bit of a log. That one looks like it could use a little bit more. Now I'm going to roll them. I roll from the wide part to the narrow, and I put the point down. You can see how quickly that rolls up. Now my mom always liked to do this because she felt it tasted like there was more nuts. My taste tester, Mary Beth, feels the other way, makes it taste like there's more nuts. Okay, we'll finish this off camera. This is the second method. You're still going to roll it into an 8-inch circle. It surprises me that you get a dozen cookies out of this little ball. One thing I always try to show you in our videos is what we actually do and how the cookies actually turn out. I need to go a little bit further in that direction. Okay, that's close enough. In this case, we're going to place the nut filling directly on the dough before we cut it out. You have to be pretty gentle with it. The dough could tear, and I hope that you will just find the method that you like best. Okay, again, we're going to cut it in half and in half again, and each of those will get cut into a third. The rolling is just exactly the same. You roll it up, you want to put the point side down. I'll roll one more on camera, and then we'll finish the rest of these off camera. This is the apricot filling. I actually ended up adding about 1.5 cups of water while it was cooking and simmering. And then to get it to be a real smooth mixture, I ended up using this type of a blender. These cookies are not going to be shaped like crescents though. I used this tool to actually put the filling in, but you could use a teaspoon. It's amazing how little filling goes on each one of these cookies. And if you end up with extra apricot filling, it tastes great on toast. Or if you make thumbprint cookies, it would taste good in those too. This dough also, the same dough, is going to get rolled out on a sugared board. I wanted to mention earlier, if you are pressed for time, you could make this dough and the filling the night before or early in the morning. The dough can actually rise in a refrigerator. Just make sure that it's well oiled and in an airtight container. In this particular case, we're going to be rolling out a square because we will be cutting 2-inch squares to make these cookies. And I think that a lot of people call these kolaches. Here in Western Pennsylvania, we have cookie tables at weddings, and this is one of the popular cookies there, so I wanted to veganize it. And I'm not quite an 8-inch square. Oh geez, not quite there. That's good. I want the edges to be smooth, and I don't actually re-roll these little pieces. I just bake them and we snack on them. So when I cut it, I lost a little bit. I really do want it to be 8 inches. 7.5, almost 8. That should do it. Get your dough loose. So I'm going to make a couple marks here. And these are small cookies. You may like your cookies larger, but I like them kind of bite-sized. I made these for my nephew's wedding, and it was a lot of fun, but at that time I didn't make them vegan. This is how I apply it. I put a little bit more in the middle. It'll start small. I put a little bit more. This one's going to be really tiny. But if you were doing this with a teaspoon or something else, you could just put a little bit in the middle and blob it out. You can see how nice this little tool is to make it a little bit neater, but you don't have to buy special stuff. And this is really, when you measure that, that's like a teaspoon or 2 of filling. Okay, I'm going to show you how you fold these. You bring the 2 points together, squeeze it, and then I push it over. I find if you overfill these cookies, they get very messy, they stick together, and they're not really as tasty. I hope you can see what I'm doing. We're trying to get in close enough. I'm going to finish these off camera. We rolled out some of the dough, and I thought of another way to do this, and I wanted to just show you. In the first circle that I turned into a square, I ended up with these edges that I cut off. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making this pretty shape, and I'm just cutting off the edges so that when I roll it, it's going to be more square shaped. And what I'm doing with these extra pieces is I'm just patting them into the dough. You may not want to follow this technique, but you might like it. This was a smaller piece of dough. I am not going to be able to go to 8 inches with it. I did not cut them evenly. You can see how the edges are staying smooth, which is what I want. I'm still making approximately 2-inch squares. I'm just not getting quite the same number. These might be a little bit bigger, so I'll put a little more filling in them. And that came out perfectly well. I just have a very small amount. I'll show you all that was left. That's all that was left. I'm not going to squeeze it into these cookies because it just tends to make a mess. So we'll go back to that technique of squeezing the corners together and patting it down.
Time to pop them in the oven.
The cookies are finished baking, but some of them, even though they're done on the bottom, I would like them a little bit more brown on the top. What I'm going to do is take off the ones that I think are brown enough. Well, see, I want that a little bit browner. Done. Let me see about over here. This one needs a little bit more time. Okay, so they're going to go back in the oven until they brown up a tiny bit more. And then these ones here are going to go onto a cooling rack. It's really important. You can see how they're brown, but it's really important to let the hot air escape so that these cookies stay nice and crisp. We'll be back in a minute or two. I wanted to show you the difference between the two techniques for rolling the nut cookies. This one was the cookie that had all the nuts at one end, and this one had the nuts all over the dough and then was rolled up. Here's the taste test. This is the nut one. Delicious, nutty, crispy. That's a winner. The apricot one, just full of apricot filling. Very light and crispy. Delicious. I hope you'll try it.
Our recipes will be linked below. Thanks for watching. Please join us next week.